Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Welcome back to another blessed night. Today, inshallah, we're going to be talking about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's statement, وَاعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَلَا تُشْرِكُوا بِهِ شَيْئًا وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا وَبِذِي الْقُرْبَى وَالْيَتَامَى وَالْمَسَاكِينِ وَالْجَارِ ذِي الْقُرْبَى وَالْجَارِ الْجُنُبِ والصاحب بالجنب وابن السبيل وما ملكت أيمانكم إن الله لا يحب من كان مختالا فخورا. That worship Allah, join nothing with Him, be good to your parents, to relatives, to orphans, to the needy, to neighbors near and far, to travelers in need, and to your slaves. Allah does not like arrogant, boastful people. And in this verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He categorizes the different relationships that we have. And one of the relationships that I really want to focus on today is this talk or this speech or this category of people who are our neighbors, both near and far. And it's very important to keep in mind the rights of neighbors. To the point that Umar radiallahu anh, that I heard so much about the rights of the neighbor that I thought that it would actually be included in inheritance. Why is it that our neighbor's rights are so important? Why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala focus on this issue? Why is it that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam speaks about the rights of the neighbor so often? One of the reasons is because of their proximity, because of the effect that it has on the neighborhood. This idea of creating trust within the neighborhood. And this is the place where many times we'll go for a walk, many times we can go for a jog, we will spend our time outside, our children will be in that space. And that community that we create, or that sub-community that we create in that space, it helps bring a feeling of safety. It helps bring a feeling of shared cause, that everybody in this neighborhood wants to protect and preserve that neighborhood. And if we think about things like neighborhood watches, if we think about neighborhood barbecues, if we think about neighborhood get-togethers, what is the purpose of getting to know our neighbors? Why not reach out to the people who live across town? Why not reach out to people who are in the distance? Why focus on the people in that space? Because these are the people who share that space with us. And if we understand that these people share that space with us, it's important for us to understand how that space is to be navigated. And one thing that many times we all overlook is that the people who live in those spaces, our neighbors, whether they be across us or next door or down the street, they are all invested in that space. They all own that land and they all own those houses, and they are the ones who are the most invested and want the best for that space. And how do we know? Because they put their money where their mouth is. They've paid for that land, and they want to make sure that that land is protected. Nobody wants to live in a neighborhood where the grass is unkempt. Nobody wants to live in a neighborhood where the schools are bad. Nobody wants to live in a neighborhood where it's dirty or the roads are in poor condition. So what should we do as good neighbors? Are we the type of people that when we move into a neighborhood, people are happy to see us? Or are we the type when we move into a neighborhood that the people are wary? This is something that we really should think about. One of the things that we as Muslims should do and learn to establish is that whenever we enter a space, that we strive to make that space better. When was the last time we hosted a neighborhood barbecue? Or when was the last time we sent out cards on Eid to our neighbors telling them Happy Eid and maybe sending a small gift, maybe some chocolates or maybe some sweets? When was the last time we exchanged food with our neighbors? Sometimes these very small gestures bring that sense of community, bring that sense of neighborhood. And the root of all of this, and the thing that all of these things revolve around, are what we had always been talking about in the theme of many of the discussions, which is relationships. This is one of the most important relationships that we have, because these are the people who will watch our house when we're gone. These are the people who we can rely on when we run out of salt. These are the people who we can exchange ideas with. These are people who can actually help on the ground level in the neighborhood that we live in. We all want betterment. Nobody wants to live in a bad way, in a bad place. And one of the ways to improve those places is by working with the people who are around us. And the beauty of working with the neighbors is that many times we don't have a choice in who our neighbors are. So we're forced to work with all different types of people. This should increase our tolerance. It should increase our humility. It should teach us how to manage different types of relationships. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaches us in all of these relationships in different ways. And one of the best ways He teaches us is when He forces us into situations where we have to deal with people who are different than us. When we come to pray, we don't have a choice of who we get to pray next to. We have to pray with whoever it is. And very similarly, when we live in a space or when we live in a house, except for a few, many times we don't have a choice of who our neighbors are. But the thing that we do have a choice in is how we deal with those neighbors and the relationships that we establish with them. It's very important that we work hard to better ourselves, we work hard to better our families, and we work hard to better our neighborhoods. The more we spend and work on our neighborhoods, the better and the greater impact it's going to have on the community, which in turn has an impact on society. One of the best grassroots efforts that any of us can make is working in our neighborhoods. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us and allow us to be good neighbors and to encourage and empower others to be good neighbors as well. Ameen. I look forward to seeing all of you tomorrow night, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair.